And I would like to start our day with something that is a little bit more on the practical side, as you might see in the presentation, of not only looking at the text from an academic point of view, but what actually happens when we read the holy text together, when we read the Quran and the Bible together. So this is from an activity from the height of the pandemic in December 2020. We made up a team of local women, a Christian friend, Henrietta, and a Muslim friend, Zahira, with my Muslim colleague, Rana, to create a space for learning, creativity, and relationship. It was born out of a need for Rana to progress her research on water conservation, to present at COP26, which she did in the past 2 weeks. This combined with my wish to produce an interfaith exhibition for an art exhibition, and my friends, Zahira and Henrietta, were missing our regular activity of reading the Bible and the Quran together because of lockdown restrictions in the UK. Rana's research is to survey a local community's knowledge about water issues and the extent to which faith influenced their attitude towards the environment. For our research at the Center for Muslim Christian Studies, we also wanted to explore whether learning about faith and relationships between different faiths might shift those attitudes. Henrietta and Zahira had joined me previously to form a group called the Holy Book Club. This was a series of regular meetings between local Christian and Muslim women who came together to read the Quran and Bible and to learn about each other, to learn about our religious texts and about our faith. This group had also produced a craft collaboration in 2015 that was exhibited as part of a festival. So we came up with a program that combined all these elements, and we invited women from the community to join us in reading texts with a theme of water from the Bible and Quran, learning about the importance of water management, doing an activity together that both facilitated and captured our conversations, and to provide some socializing during the pandemic, while some of us got to know each other a little better. It was called Women at the Well, based on the stories shared in the Muslim and Christian tradition that were themed around women and wells. And to represent these elements, we chose the craft activity of quilling. Quilling involves scrolling strips of paper around a toothpick and then sticking those shapes onto a card in a formation. We met over Zoom for a series of 4 meetings, and eventually, once restrictions were lifted, we met in person to see the pieces put together for the exhibition. The first session considered the figure of Hagar, for which, or Hajar as perhaps, sorry, I should have shown you this slide a little bit earlier. This just gives you an idea of the strips of paper that you roll into a shape, and you can then form them and stick onto the card. So back to the text we read together. Firstly was the figure of Hagar in English, or Hajar in Arabic, for which we read the text in the Quran from Surah Al-Ibrahim and Al-Baqarah, and in the Bible in Genesis. For the second session, we looked at the figure of the wife of Moses, who is called Zipporah in the Bible. We read about Moses and Zipporah's meeting in the Quran in Surah Al-Qasas, and together with a text, so we reflected on the Quranic text together with the biblical story, but we read it with the meeting of Jesus and the Samaritan woman in the Bible. Afterwards, we produced a booklet, and I'm going to read to you from the booklet what people said about these different figures and how they understood our reading of it together. Um, I'll show you the booklet. It's just a picture that I had on screen earlier. A reflection on our reading of scripture. At the end of this series of meetings, it's difficult to summarize or contain the richness of this experience. We tried new things, possibly heard new things, and we truly met each other despite being online. In coming together from different backgrounds, we created a community to learn a new craft, to think about our own texts, and to think about other texts together, reflecting on those stories from the scriptures in each other's presence was a deep experience. But that doesn't mean it was always easy, especially the Hajar story. Yes, it is an extraordinary story about God meeting a woman at a well, but it is also difficult. The themes of mistreatment, flight, and abandonment show us that life is hard. Like God asking Ibrahim to sacrifice his son. Now there's a difficult story. Yet, in both Ibrahim and Hajar's life, we see that God provides. I found the running between the hills that our Muslim friends practice when they are on pilgrimage an extraordinary demonstration of the thirst and longing for God that Hajar expressed in crying out to the Lord. Also, the story of Moses meeting his wife at the well, where once again we see a difficult life situation. The women are pushed to the side, they are mistreated, and Moses comes to their aid, himself in flight from the Pharaoh. In the meeting at the Samaritan well, Jesus likewise gives the woman a place and a role within his story. Her example promises restoration. By responding to Jesus, exploring the difficult relationships and politics in her life, the Samaritan woman was restored in her community when she runs to call them to Jesus. The water he gave not only quenched her thirst, but became a living well from within her. This is a summary of what people experience from reading the text, but then when we were done, we put everyone's artifacts together in a banner. Those are the blue and white and green pieces that you see on the wall there. So the outcome of the project is an artifact that can be displayed as a record of our project, but it is also a point of reflection for others to learn with and from us. The picture here is of the composition of everyone's individual piece put together in a banner that has been displayed at a university, at an art exhibition, and as part of a church's prayers for the COP26 meeting on the environment. It has increased understanding of different religions, and it has forged friendships, or at least contacts, between different people in community. Now back to my title of this paper, I called it The Text as Radical Hospitality. And why do I need to call it radical and not just hospitality? The space that made this possible was not a hotel or a conference room, or even a religious building. And there was nothing we could offer to make each other seated more comfortably or give each other a warm drink or delicious food. The space was open through the stories, the characters, the sounds and images of the holy texts, the Quran and the Bible. We did not come together only for sharing daily life or because of similar interests, but because the differences between us were assumed. As such, we were surprised by similarity, while still challenged by difference, sometimes even in our own texts. A common thought was that people were reminded, or perhaps even heard for the first time, about some details in their own text, never mind the text of the other. It did not reduce the other to sameness or seek control through one meaning for all. Christian and Muslim believers were enriched in their understanding of their own texts and doctrines by learning in the proximity of the other. We went away with new understanding of others, but also of ourselves. So the radical part of the hospitality is by opening up myself to the questions and hearing the comments of others on my text and my faith. And so I see it through new eyes. The holy text hosted both me and those who differ from me, so that we left our meeting renewed and refreshed, as good hosts do. That's the end of my presentation, and I just want to show you the bibliography. I'm happy to share the PowerPoint if people want resources afterwards, and also happy to receive questions if anyone has any.